what purpose does the gentleman from Colorado rise?
Ask unanimous consent to address the House for 5 minutes.
Without objection.
Madam Speaker, I the other day went to fill up my car, gasoline, and the price tag was a little over $75. I gulped because, of course, it's always a shock, and it has been for the last several months every time I fill up my car, and I know it is for most Americans. Most Americans, I'm sure, do not consider this to be just the price of doing business, having to go to work. Okay, no problem, I will just do this and not complain. But, you know, I thought about it, and there are so many people to thank for this situation we're in, that I'm paying $75 to fill up my, and it's probably going to get worse, by the way. We all recognize that. But I was wondering who to thank for this situation, who to thank every single time I go into the gas station, who's really responsible. And of course, I think every single American, every time they go in to get their gas, and every time they look at that pump and have it say something startling back at them, like $75 or more, of course, thank your local environmentalist first. Start off there, because, of course, it's been years that we've had the kind of control that they've exercised over especially the Democratic Party. And as a result of that control that they exercise and the power that they bring to bear, we have been unable to drill for oil in the United States or off of our coasts or in Anwar. So thank them first of all. Then, of course, you could also thank your Democrat congressman or senator, if you have one, because for years now they've been able to avoid either allowing us to drill for oil in the places where we have oil in this country, or in fact in the last few months they've been able to even block any sort of vote on it whatsoever, for fear, of course, that they would have to explain such a vote to their constituents. So there are people that we can thank for $75 when you go and fill up your car at the gas station. I just hope every single time this happens to every single American, every time they go in and do this, put the credit card in the little reader and see that money deducted, they remember who to thank. Also, they should remember this, that it's not just this economic issue, it's not just what it's going to take out of their pocketbooks, mine included, that is causing great pain and consternation. It's also the fact that this is it's a national security issue. It's not just an economic issue. And people are going to have to recognize that we are in a situation, an international situation, where we are funding our own opponents. The people who want to do us harm are being funded to the tune of billions of dollars a day, every single day, in order to accomplish their goal to eradicate the United States of America from the face of the earth. 10 years ago, Osama bin Laden said a strange thing. Well, he says many strange things, but this was a particularly odd statement. He said that he wanted to see $144 a barrel oil. Now, this was 10 years ago when, of course, oil was nowhere near this price, and everybody would have looked at that statement and thought it was peculiar, to say the least. But he said that that's what he believed it would have to be in order for the West to pay the price that he believed was deserving by all the Muslims in the world who have had their oil stolen from them over the years. But the point is, he used oil. He talked about oil as being a tactical part of the war against the West. Well, who would have thought we'd be right at that $140 a barrel mark within the 10-year period of time that he projected? Who would have thought that that was possible? But it also is an indication, as I say, of the fact that we are facing a much bigger problem than just the economic burden. It is imperative that we strip oil of its strategic value. Not only are billions of dollars flowing outside of the United States into countries that are enemies of the United States, but in fact, those dollars do come back to the United States, often in terms of investments that are made by countries through things we call sovereign wealth funds. These are funds that are controlled by governments. $3 trillion, we believe, in controlled by sovereign wealth funds that are primarily in the Middle East or in countries, again, that are opponents of the United States. $3 trillion. With that money, a lot of things can happen. You could probably even affect, to a certain extent, the futures markets. But you could also certainly buy up a lot of stock in a lot of companies. Well, to a certain extent, that's good, that's healthy. I'm not going to argue with the fact that we're getting investment back out of some of those dollars. But some of those dollars go into companies that have very important information available to them, that are part of the technological base we have in the United States that we rely upon to keep us one step ahead of the game. And although we try our best to make sure that significant technological advances in strategic areas are not available to countries outside the United States, when you own a lot of stock in those companies, believe me, you have access to a lot of information. And they are making use of it. So there are ramifications to this outflow of dollars in the pursuit of oil. And there are a lot of things we have to do. Yes, build wind towers. Absolutely, build. Any kind of alternative fuel you want to talk about and pursue is fine with me. But when it comes down to it, we have to drill. All those other things will not solve our problem, and certainly not in the time frame that will allow us to breathe easier with the thought that the enemies of the United States are not actually being enriched by our own need for their oil. We have it. It's abundant. Trillions of barrels of oil just in the Rhone Plateau, just in the Colorado-Wyoming plateau that allows, in the shale, it's locked up in shale now, but there's technology available that will allow us to extract it. There are all kinds of things that we can do if only the government will get out of the way and allow it to be done. That is what is required.
Gentleman's time
Let's
is
do it as soon as possible. I yield back the balance of my time.